Locked Out, the case for a new global water sovereignty for landlocked nations. We Matter podcast. Welcome to You Matter podcast, the show that shines a light on the injustices holding back our world. I am your host, and today we're diving headfirst into a crisis that's boiling over right now, one that could spark wars, famines, and revolutions. Imagine this. You're trapped in a house with no doors to the outside world, but you're forced to share your only food with the neighbors who lock you in. That's the reality for landlocked countries like Ethiopia and Laos. Their rivers flow out to the sea, giving life to downstream nations, but they're shackled by one-sided rules that demand everything and give nothing back. No fair share of the water's power. No easy path to the ocean for trade. Just endless obligations that choke their futures. This isn't some distant problem, it's exploding today. As floods ravage Egypt and Sudan, fingers point upstream at Ethiopia's dam, while in the Himalayas, India and Pakistan's fragile water pact hangs by a thread, with talks kicking off in Vienna this Monday, November 17th. If we don't demand change now, billions could pay the price in a water-scarce world. Stick with me, this is urgent, and it's time to fight back. Let's break it down simply. International laws on shared rivers sound fair on paper, like the UN's 1997 Watercourses Convention. It says countries must use rivers equitably, not cause significant harm downstream, and cooperate by sharing info and plans. Sounds good, right? But here's the dirty truth. These rules are chains for upstream landlocked nations. They're forced to hold back their own development to protect the guys below them, who often have coasts and power. Take Ethiopia. They've built the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, GERD, on the Nile, inaugurated just 2 months ago in September 2025. It's a lifeline. Ethiopia generates 85% of the Nile's flow, but only 44% of their people have electricity. This dam could change that, powering homes and even mining Bitcoin for cash. But Egypt and Sudan downstream scream harm. They demand Ethiopia limit filling the dam, manage releases carefully, or face sanctions. EU aid's been slashed. US diplomats are pushing technical fixes. And just this week, on November 12th, Egypt's President LLDCs blasted Ethiopia's unilateral actions in a call with Kenya's leader. Unilateral. Ethiopia's bending over backward to avoid floods like the ones hitting Egypt right now, with Egypt claiming that GERD is contributing to the floods. No compensation for Ethiopia, no shared hydropower profits, no guaranteed navigation down the Nile to the Mediterranean Sea. It's exploitation, pure and simple. Now parallel this to Laos on the Mekong River. They're damming up to become Southeast Asia's battery, exporting power to neighbours. But dams like Xayaburi and the proposed Sanakam have raised major concerns about displacement, environmental impact, and cross-border tensions. Vietnam downstream gets cheap electricity, but blocks Laos from easy river transit down the Mekong to their ports. Laos drowns in Chinese debt for these projects, all to avoid harm under the 1995 Mekong Agreement. Again, obligations flow one way, downstream benefits, upstream pain. And it's not just Laos. Look at Afghanistan, where the Helmand River flows to Iran, forcing water-sharing curbs amid droughts. Yet Afghanistan gets no reciprocal sea access via the Persian Gulf or Nepal, restrained on the Ganges and Brahmaputra by India, paying the price in floods and power shortages without free transit to the Bay of Bengal. And don't think there's a shining example elsewhere. Even the 1960 Indus Waters Treaty between India and Pakistan, once hailed as a miracle surviving 3 wars, is cracking. It splits the rivers fairly, 80% to downstream Pakistan, but India's upstream dams like Kishanganga face accusations of sneaky storage that could starve Pakistan's farms. In April 2025, after a terror attack in Kashmir, India suspended the treaty, halting data sharing and inspections. Pakistan's fighting back at the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague, and just last week, on November 8th, the court clarified rules on dam designs to protect flows. But India's boycotting, and the next round starts in Vienna this Monday, November the 17th through 21st. Pause for emphasis. If it collapses, 300 million people face famine risks in a basin already losing 30% of its flow to climate change by 2050. See the pattern: upstream restraint, downstream demands, no reciprocity. These laws aren't neutral. They're weapons for the powerful. Downstream coastal giants like Egypt or Vietnam extract concessions, while landlocked upstream nations like Ethiopia or Laos get squeezed. Why should they pay the price for global harmony when the rewards flow only one way? It's theft, disguised as cooperation. Now let's talk about the ultimate slap in the face: sea access. 44 landlocked countries, think Bolivia, Nepal, Ethiopia, are cut off from the oceans, slashing their trade by up to 13% of GDP. The 1982 UN Convention on the Law of the Sea promises them free transit through neighbours, roads, pipelines, even rivers, to reach ports without crazy fees or delays. Equal treatment at docks, a share in ocean resources. Sounds revolutionary, right? Wrong. It's an empty promise. Bolivia lost its coast in 1879 and begs Chile for access. A 2018 court ruling said no obligation, so they pay through the nose for transit down the Paraguay River, which flows through Argentina and Brazil to the Atlantic. But disputes over dams and navigation leave Bolivia isolated. Nepal relies on India for the Ganges, but border hassles jack up costs. For Ethiopia, the Nile teases the Mediterranean, but GERD fights block any real navigation deal with Sudan or Egypt-Laos's Mekong. Could link to Vietnam's sea, but downstream gripes over dams shut that down. Paraguay, another landlocked victim, shares the Paraguay River with Argentina, but faces fees and delays to reach the ocean, mirroring Uzbekistan's struggles on the Amu Darya, where upstream dams in Tajikistan spark tensions without sea reciprocity via the dried-up Aral Sea routes. These nations aren't just landlocked, they're locked out. Their rivers outflow to the sea, but they can't use them freely because of water obligations. It's like owning a highway but being forbidden to drive on it while your neighbours speed by. Climate change makes it worse. Drying rivers, extreme floods, like Egypt now, hit landlocked upstream hardest. Yet they get no matching rights. This isn't fairness. It's a rigged game perpetuating poverty. Enough is enough. This radical injustice demands a revolution in water sovereignty. Landlocked upstream nations like Ethiopia and Laos endure hydro-hegemony, endless duties without payoffs. Ethiopia faces sanctions while powering only half its people. Laos displaces villages for dams that benefit others. It's neo-colonial theft. Downstream powers hoard the sea while extracting upstream sacrifices. We need special treatment now, mandatory reciprocity, link water pacts to sea access, follow no-harm rules, get toll-free river transit to ports, amend UN conventions with obligation compensation clauses. Pilot river-to-sea protocols on the Nile and Mekong, share hydropower revenues, fund infrastructure, guarantee navigation, and if downstream vetoes it, boycott, sue at the International Court of Justice, rally global pressure. Look at the parallels. On the Indus, Pakistan's downstream wins at arbitration, but without India's buy-in, it's toothless, just like Egypt's threats isolate Ethiopia. With Vienna talks starting Monday, November 17th, the world watches. Will it fracture further, sparking conflict? Or will we seize this moment for equity? Dismiss the excuses. Sovereignty fears are just downstream dodges. Mutual gains like joint revenues make it work. We've got human stories screaming for change. Lao villagers evicted from homes, Ethiopian farmers denied dam benefits amid floods. This mundane violence must end. Time for radical equity before rivers run red with conflict. And here's the plea. Landlocked nations, Ethiopia, Laos, Bolivia, Nepal, Afghanistan, Paraguay, Uzbekistan, and beyond, it's time to forge a new world order in water use. Unite at the United Nations. Build a solid coalition to demand revisions to this unfair, one-sided system. Push for treaties that balance river duties with real sea access rights. No more empty promises under UNCLOS or the Watercourses Convention. Create protocols where upstream sacrifices earn downstream concessions, or the cycle of exploitation continues. Your rivers are your lifelines. Reclaim them, or watch your sovereignty dry up. The world order must evolve, or it will crumble under the weight of injustice. You already have a powerful platform, the Group of Landlocked Developing Countries, LLDCs, 32 nations strong under the UN's umbrella. Use the ongoing third UN conference on LLDCs in 2025, happening now in Turkmenistan, to amplify your voice. This conference is your stage to explore solutions, forge partnerships, and tackle high trade costs, 50% higher due to no sea access. Leverage the UN Office of the High Representative for LLDCs, UNOHRLLS, to advocate for unfettered transit and water rights. Build on the Vienna Programme of Action, pushing for updates that demand equity in sea access and resolve water conflicts through multilateral diplomacy. Don't be slaves to ratified laws favouring downstream nations. Challenge them. Propose amendments to UNCLOS for stronger transit freedoms, or new protocols linking water cooperation to sea rights. Rally in the UN General Assembly for resolutions that reinterpret equitable use to include upstream compensations. Form alliances with sympathetic coastal states. Use South-South cooperation to build leverage, and collaborate with bodies like the International Seabed Authority to integrate deep-sea benefits. Turn existing forums into launchpads for a new platform, a dedicated LLDC alliance for water and sea equity, to lobby, negotiate, and rewrite the rules. Your isolation ends when you unite, demand the right to development, unlock your potential, and stop the downstream dominance. Think about the triple chains crushing your economies. Transboundary river disputes tie your hands on water use, denial of sea access doubles trade costs, and transit dependence adds delays and instability, slashing exports by 60% and GDP growth by up to 15%. Bolivia's fight with Chile racks up millions in extra fees yearly, stunting growth. Ethiopia pays $1.5 billion annually to Djibouti for port access amid Nile wrangles. Uzbekistan's cotton exports suffer double transit tariffs through neighbours, fueling poverty. Paraguay's soy trade faces river navigation bottlenecks, costing billions in delays. These woes aren't fate, they're fixable with action. So, practical moves. First, diversify transit. Ethiopia's recent Somaliland port deal cuts Djibouti dependence. Invest in dry ports and railways like Kazakhstan's to bypass rivers. Second, sue strategically. Bolivia's ICJ case against Chile raised global awareness, even if it lost. Push WTO disputes over unfair fees. Third, form regional blocs. Join the African Continental Free Trade Area to negotiate better terms, reducing costs by 30%. Fourth, diversify economies, shift from commodities to tech and services, like Rwanda's digital leap. Despite Kagera River disputes, unite, act and break these chains. Your economies depend on it. Listeners, this crisis is here now, inundating Egypt, straining the Indus, drowning Laos in debt. Sovereignty must flow both ways, or we'll face a flood of revolution. Demand change. Contact your leaders, share this episode, push for UN reforms. Follow You Matter podcast for more exposees. I'm your host. Stay vigilant, stay fighting. Until next time.